All right, guys, welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about adding value to properties. It's commonly known that if you go in and you rehab a property, you're adding equity that you can capitalize on. Max is going to walk you guys through on how to do that.
It is widely known that buying a property that's significantly under market value and not cosmetically updated to the standards of today's market, say, a 1970s home that still has 1970 home amenities, that's $50K under what the market value would say, is a good purchase, right? We want to be able to add value into these properties for marginally less than what the home will be worth after we add the value. It's a very simple thought. You put 20K into a 100K home and then it's worth $250,000, you won, right? There's a huge margin in there. So that's the idea of maybe the BRRRR strategy that you've heard on Bigger Pockets, or you could even take that thought and put it into flips. So I think there's always the question of, is it better to add value and hold a property, or is it better to add value and flip a property? Later on in the course, Tyler's going to divulge and dive deep into the BRRRR strategy to see if that even still works, adding value and holding, or if you should just be flipping properties nowadays. The market's ever changing, and the landscape and the way that we approach real estate investing is so individualized to your needs and your financial situation, right? For some, BRRRR might make a lot of sense if you have a ton of money. And for others, flip might make a lot of sense if you need a ton of money, because it's kind of the get rich quick scheme of real estate investing. Not quite as schemy as wholesaling. Sorry to crap on any wholesalers. But it is the fastest way in my book that you can make quite a bit of money in this industry. How do we get there? How do we become great flippers? Well, that is, I think, a challenge that many face, and unfortunately face the price of a bad flip. You have to understand rehabs and scopes of work. Your ARV is the most important thing to know how to calculate and know how to find in the fix and flip realm of real estate. It's your after renovation value. When calculating your ARV, you need a CMA. A CMA is a collection of sold comps that have already been renovated. We are also looking at, as a part of the CMA, what the compared finish level is going to be to what we're dreaming up with this scope of work. So if we're looking at laminate floors with nice tiled showers and a beautiful kitchen, we're looking at properties that just recently sold in the area with all of those items in it to really nail down what that ARV is going to be. You really need access to my board to get under the hood of what values look like in the neighborhood. I think this has to come from an agent. Even my most experienced flippers that I work with still text me for value. They do not, yes, they'll try to get on Zillow, they'll try to look at the market themselves and get a gauge. And they usually come to me with a range. Hey, I'm feeling like, 170 to 210 with this one. Well, that's quite the margin there, 170 to 210. So what does the compared market analysis say about the after renovation value of this property? We're going in, we're looking at, number one, how long is this thing going to take to flip? You have to think about the timelines. What type of market are we going to be listing this in? Is it going to be the fall? Is it going to be the spring? Every market moves, ebbs and flows differently across the nation. For me specifically, I got to be fearful of the winter because things move slower. And I'm communicating that back to every investor. Hey, here's my after renovation value for the property if we're able to sell it in X month. Let's just use easy numbers. Let's say the after renovation value is looking to be $200,000 and your cost to flip or your rehab amount is going to be $50,000 and your purchase price is only $75K. Well, it's easy to add the purchase price plus the rehab to say we're going to be in this project for $125,000 and our margin presumably will be $75K. Well, there are some added costs in there that you need to know how to calculate: realtor commissions, title fees, and cost of holding if it's hard money. There's a lot of complexity that goes into there. I'd advise for back of envelope to be super easy, just take 10% off. So 200K, let's call it 190. 190 minus 125 is $65,000. I don't know, leveraging 125K to make 65, is that worth it? That really comes down to a specific need and what you're trying to do. If you're doing 10 of them at once, hell yeah. There's also different leverages to look at, and to get to a bigger scale of what that margin should be, I typically advise being around that 50 to 55% transparently on flips because things can go wrong. What happens whenever you get behind the drywall and we see, an extra change order of $15K because we didn't know that the studs were rotted? You have to think about those things and anticipate the future. To be a great flipper, I'm going to be completely honest, I think you need to be local in a market. I think that you need to be flipping in your backyard. I don't know if flipping from distance is truly the smartest thing to do as an investor. And here's why. I personally have a goal this year to do 4 flips myself. In that goal, if I were doing this out of state and I had an agent sending me videos of properties and guesstimating what they felt it would cost on a scope of work to flip that property, to fix it up and flip it, it would be very challenging to fully understand. Because I'm at a knowledge level now where I can walk a distressed property and get within 10%, no, get within 3% of what my contractor will tell me it will cost to rehab that property. That's taken me about 2 years to do and probably walking hundreds of distressed properties to get to that level. It's not something that you can just do back of envelope right out of the gate. You got to be in the property. We can use rough numbers to plug into the fix and flip calculator and see if, the margins even work to get the interest to then go walk the property. But I think you got to be here. And there's a multitude of reasons why that is. And it's kind of diving into the contractor of what that rehab timeline looks like and vetting contractors well. In my opinion, there's one contractor that if you want to do this thing from out of state, I would recommend. And I've already mentioned them once in this course. It's Off Leash Construction. The way that they approach flip from distance is made by investors for investors. They're a company that has a project manager that's in between the contractor, the subs, and everybody involved in the deal. His job is literally to walk properties, get scopes of work, and then go by the property as it's under construction and hire and fire subs, right? So if he walks into a property and say it's 4 weeks along, it's not going at the craftsmanship level that he wants or the speed that he wants, they'll just fire the crew and get him out and bring the next crew in. Well, if you're from distance, don't you think that that's what you'd be doing if you were here? Like for me, if I did a flip in my backyard, I'm going to be checking up on it every few weeks. And if the contractor's screwing around and wasting my money and time, I'm going to get him out of there and bring the next guy in. From distance, where people get screwed is they hire these general contractors that don't communicate, don't stay on time, don't stay on budget, have change orders left and right, charge you out the ass, and take an extra 3 months to get the project done. And guess what? You're listing in the dead of December and it's never going to move. You don't want to list in winter, right? In a Midwest market, presumably. You have to have a contractor that is, one, available and doesn't gripe about writing up scopes of work. You also have to have a contractor that can keep people on time and within the means of the deal. They also kind of need to be investors to understand the numbers in general and maybe have done some flips themselves. Don't know if I would hire any type of contracting crew from distance that doesn't know how to do a flip or hasn't felt it themselves. That's why I just always go back to Off Leash, because they were made by an investor for investors. The company was created for the owner when he was still out of state. And if you're not in Indy, get connected with an Off Leash Construction. I know that there are more of these companies out there that operate more like a project manager. Off Leash is completely unique to our market. I wouldn't even call them a project manager at this point, to be honest. They are a general contracting crew. They have their own in-house crews, but they've grown into that role. There's other companies like that in your market. Unfortunately, BiggerPockets doesn't have a contractor finder because they want to charge contractors ads. So you have to dive into the forums is a great place to try to find those people, or go to your local meetups. They're going to be there. If they're truly made for investors by investors, they'll be at your local meetup and you'll be able to get connected. Walking through scopes of work for value add properties or even inspection responses, it takes talent to know if you're getting overcharged or screwed. That's where your agent comes in. They can be the moderator between the contractor and you to say, yes, I've seen this charge 100 times. You're not getting screwed. That's the correct price for it. I think it always comes back to that trust and loyalty that the agent's going to have your back and be the middleman. And as you grow through your first deal, through your first flip, through your first value add property, you're going to get sharper with the numbers and you're going to learn that lesson. I'm fortunate and I get to do 50 to 60 deals a year where I'm technically using other people's money through it that I can learn, right? I've seen the mistakes And the mistakes always boil back down to, in the fix and flip industry, a contractor not being on time, doing shady work, or just stealing people's money and running away. Honestly, I don't think even getting into the weeds of what a scope of work should look like, what numbers should look like for a positive investment in the fix and flip realm is even worth it. I think the only thing that I can truly teach is vetting a contractor correctly.
All right, guys, Max just did a good job explaining all of the nuances that go into this strategy of adding value and potentially flipping a home. As you can see, there are a lot of dangers to using this strategy. I'd highly, highly recommend having an advisor, preferably your agent, by your side to help you with using this strategy. All right, guys, we will catch you in the next video.